Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nessie's Dead. As always, we are your hosts, Spencer and Helen.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I feel like lately, with every episode, I'm like, ugh, I was going to do this, and then I changed it, and I kept trying to figure out what I was going to do, and then I landed on this. This week is nothing like that.
Oh.
I discovered this on like a few days ago, and when I heard it, I was like, this is what I'm covering.
Instantly fell in love.
Instantly.
Mm.
It is very different for what we normally would talk about, but there are some similarities to the most recent case that I covered, the Sudbrink phone calls.
Okay.
Not too similar, but towards the end of the episode, I think you'll start to see a few parallels. And for anyone who has not yet listened, definitely go check out the Sudbrink phone calls.
Yeah, that one was really good.
I had multiple people tell me that was the creepiest one
Yeah, same.
we've done.
Loved it. So I'm excited. What is this one tonight?
So it's not quite time to tell you exactly what it is, but I do want to kind of have like a little bit of a lead up into it.
Okay.
So, and it's not going to make a lot of sense at first at all, but I really quickly wanted to talk about UFOs and them being talked about by government officials and whatnot, because as we know, over the past like 5 or so years, UFOs have been like really discussed in mainstream media.
Yeah.
The government is like, yeah, this is real. Aliens are real. We've had contact with, like, just crazy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you know about the aliens that are supposedly living in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who's not aware of that, there's been a lot of talk, probably the last like 2 years or so, maybe a year and a half, about aliens and or some kind of, entity that is seemingly utilizing our oceans and lakes. There are videos of this too, of orbs that are flying around over the water and then they just shoot down into the water and disappear, or they come from out of the water. This was even talked about like in DC at these like UFO or UAP briefings by government and military officials. So it's not just like conspiracy theory talk.
Exactly.
Not that there's anything wrong with some conspiracy theory talk, of course.
Not at all.
But I bring this up, the idea of aliens going into bodies of water here on Earth, for you to kind of keep in your back pocket.
All right, it's tucked away.
Okay.
Kind of reminds me how recently people were talking about the laws against interacting with dolphins.
Oh, yeah, I haven't interacted with dolphins.
Me neither.
But I haven't looked into that really.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to look into that.
People are wondering if we're not allowed to like try to communicate with them or interact with them because they know what's up down there, which I find very interesting. Even though we can't understand dolphins because half the language they speak is at such a high pitch we can't even hear it. But still, why are there laws against it? Why is it a federal offense? I find that very interesting.
Okay, so you have the watery aliens and now dolphins in your back pocket.
Yes, both.
I have one more little side note to bring up to lead into today's case. I know you're a fan of clowns.
I love a good clown, yes.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. It's not because I find clowns scary. It's just, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not a fan of clowns. Like, I was at a haunted house over Halloween, and every actor was a clown. And I'm like, okay.
I don't find them scary. I just like them.
I understand the appeal. It doesn't strike me,
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because a lot of people are terrified of clowns nowadays, which is why I think the horror world is so oversaturated with clowns, because it's kind of an easy market to scare people with clowns now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because people were not always so terrified of clowns. Like back in the day, it was not a super common fear, which will play into what I have to talk about.
How are we mixing clowns and ocean orbs and aliens? I'm intrigued.
I was purposely doing this to make you wonder, and also because it will kind of, one part of those two little side stories will come up in the theories. But do you have any ideas or guesses of how creepy clowns and ocean aliens can correlate?
No, enlighten me here.
Okay, I will enlighten you. So we will be taking the plunge into the very mysterious, unsolved case of Sam, the Sandown clown.
I have never heard of this, ever.
I know. I know. And that's part of why I wanted to do it, because I was like, there is no way she's going to know anything about this one. It's going to be cool.
Okay, let's go. I am really excited.
Okay, so the case of Sam, the Sandown clown, takes place on the outskirts of a coastal town called Sandown. This is on the southeast side of the Isle of Wight in UK. Now, there are going to be multiple parts to this story, but it all centers around this little area on the Isle of Wight. Some little backstory on this area, which is now known as Sandown. It actually predates the Roman Empire, so there were pretty ancient civilizations in this area to begin with. By the period of the Roman Empire, the area was used for salt. That's always a fun fact.
Fun fact.
And then by the 19th century, it kind of blossomed as a tourist destination because it's a cute little coastal area. It's a nice little getaway, and it was made much easier to get to in the 18th century through the use of the railroad. This area was very normal. It was not known for strange happenings at all. That is until the early 1970s. Technically, it all starts in October of 1970. So the case that revolves around Sam, the Sandown clown, takes place in 1973, but there is a little bit of like a buildup that gets us to the case of Sam, the Sandown clown.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, it all starts in October of 1970 when an unnamed man, who we will refer to as Mr. Y, this is because when he comes forward with his experiences, he wished to remain anonymous and is referred to as Mr. Y. So that's what we will be calling him.
All right.
So we have Mr. Y, October 1970, and he has a very unique experience while driving alone one night on the Isle of Wight. And this was near Sandown Beach. So he's driving, and it was relatively late at night. Like, there weren't really a lot of other cars around. People weren't really outside. So he's pretty much alone. Everything's normal, but then he notices something kind of in front of him in the sky. He sees, essentially it's a UFO, some kind of hovering craft above him. He described it as being silent. It made no noise. It just hovered in place. And underneath it were 7 balls of red light, just kind of not attached to it, but floating underneath the craft. And inside each red ball of light was a mixture of turquoise and white.
Ooh,
So-
it sounds pretty though.
I know, very pretty.
I like it.
So we have this hovering silent craft, and underneath the red balls of light, each one has turquoise and white mixed into it. He does not know what he's looking at. He is shocked. He pulls over and gets out of his car and just kind of watches, and nothing really happens. It just hovers there. He was on the way to his friend's house, and he was running late, so he's like, okay, I'm going to get back in my car and get going, I guess. Once he gets back in his...
he just like leaves
Yes.
with a UFO right in front of him in the sky.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
But the UFO actually follows him.
As
And-
it should. I bet the UFO was shocked.
Yeah, it was like, hello.
Do you not see me?
So as he's driving, he notices that the UFO is following alongside him, keeping up with speed. It does so for quite a while down the road, and then all of a sudden, it stops behind him and zips off to a nearby field. He then pulls over to see what it's doing. He said that at first it was just hovering over this field, and then it starts bouncing back and forth and zipping around.
I would be terrified that it was about to abduct me. It feels like it's playing games with him.
Kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously intrigued, but he doesn't seem that concerned to me.
Who is this person?
Mr. Y.
Jeez.
He then continues down the road, heading to his friend's house, and the UFO doesn't like keep up with him this time, but he does note that it is in his rearview mirror and it's always about the same distance behind him. So it does essentially follow him, but it's kind of keeping its distance, or it's making itself appear like it's maybe closer than it perhaps was.
It's toying with him. Ooh, that's so eerie.
So he makes it to his friend's house and he tells his friend about the experience. After a little while, the two of them go outside and there it is again. The craft itself was not there, but the red balls of light with the little bits of turquoise and white mixed into it were floating outside.
I wonder if maybe the UFO could like make itself disappear.
I think so.
Like
or there are some
invisible.
theories, and I've seen videos of this too, where there's maybe like kind of this mothership and then the orbs come out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe the mothership or the bigger part of the craft acts as the vessel and the orbs are the entities, perhaps.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So after this experience, he continued to see these red orbs, not like all the time, but he would see them now and then. And it kind of became a part of like his daily life. However, 2 years later, in 1972, it gets a little bit weirder.
Weirder than that.
Yeah. So Mr. Y is taking a walk along a beach out in Compton Bay, and this is also on the Isle of Wight. This is about half hour from the town of Sandown, so it's all in that same vicinity. But he's taking a walk, and he's pretty familiar with the area. He's familiar with the tides. At the time that he's taking the walk, it was officially low tide. However, he's startled when a wave comes in and hits him on the leg because it was not time for the high tide to be coming in. He was kind of like, okay, that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
The wave shouldn't be coming up this high. Then the next wave came and it was even higher. And then the next one and the next one. And it kept getting faster too, which was like super not normal. So he's kind of startled. He's kind of confused, and he's thinking maybe there was a small earthquake not far from there causing the waves. So he decides to start heading back up the shore. All of a sudden, he hears this loud noise coming from the open ocean. He described it as like a siren, like a wailing siren noise.
Okay, that's scary.
Yeah, terrifying. At first, he was not thinking too much of it. You know, you're out at the ocean, like that could have been a boat or something for all he knows. He's more concerned because the waves are coming in. Like now it's up to his hips. He's having to fight the current. Now it's getting
out of there.
Having to swim. He's able to get to some rocks. Like I saw some reports of saying it was like a big rock. Others saying that it was like a cliffside he got to. But he's able to get out of the water either way. And he hears that siren sound again. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea why the water got so high so fast. Then he sees something in the water, a glowing yellow light.
Aliens.
And this was just below the surface of the water near where he was sitting up on the rock. He then notices that there's 2 yellow lights in the water. He described them as like eyes. He said that it was, quote, peering up at me like the eyes of some horrible sea monster. But almost as quickly as the waves and the siren noise and the glowing eye-like yellow lights appeared, it was gone.
Just like that in a flash. Aliens.
Yeah, well, not like a flash, but the waves receded, went back to the usual schedule of being low tide. The siren sound was gone, didn't come back. The glowing yellow lights were gone. And everything went back to normal.
Oh, and he's just sitting there probably like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I would feel, you know, that kind of feeling when you're like, did that really happen? Like, what is going on? I don't like it.
He got out of there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's what he should.
I saw some reports saying that, like, as this was happening, he was able to grab his camera, and every time he brought his camera to try to take a picture of these yellow lights, they would disappear. And then once the camera was put away, they would reappear. But either way, this all happened, like, really quickly.
And there's no evidence.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
But after this, he kept pretty quiet about this experience. He also kept pretty quiet about the UFO and red orb experience that he had. Like, he had that one friend that also saw the red orbs. He knew about it, but that was kind of it. That is, until about a year later, in 1973, he ends up going public and reporting his experiences because his daughter came to him talking about her own weird encounter.
It's stalking them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
I feel like it.
So now that takes us to May of 1973. We have 2 children, a boy and a girl. Now, I do find this kind of odd because Mr. Y, this is his daughter that we're talking about, and Mr. Y remains anonymous, but it's reported that the daughter's name was Faye. I don't know if he reported these incidences, that maybe he gave a fake name for his daughter. I'm not sure. But the daughter is referred to as Faye, and the little boy that she was with. Some reports say that he remained anonymous. Other reports say that his name was Harry. So we're going to go ahead and call him Harry.
Okay.
But we have these 2 children, Faye and Harry. And again, Faye is Mr. Y's daughter. They're both about 7 years old at the time that this happens. The 2 kids were staying on the Isle of Wight at Lake Common, which is just outside of Sandown. They were there vacationing with their families. This particular area that they're in was right next to the Sandown airport, which was like a really small airport. The area that they're in kind of backs, I think, the property line of the airport, and it's fenced in.
Like a private airport, not like a big commercial then.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. It's not like super desolate, but it's also not like, it's still like a place to vacation, but there is kind of that property line there.
Gotcha.
On this particular day, around 2 p.m., the kids are outside playing and exploring. All of a sudden, they hear a strange sound. They described it as being similar to an ambulance.
The sirens.
Yeah, exactly. They noticed that none of the adults noticed the sound, or if they did, they do not seem to care at all. But they thought that it was really weird, and they decided to follow it and investigate. So they follow the sound, and they make their way into this kind of marshy swamp area. It's right along the fence line towards that airport. The children note that they pass these 2 men that were working on the fence, like 2 construction workers. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
The siren sound stops, but the 2 kids decide to keep exploring and playing around in this marsh area. They come up to a small wooden bridge that's going over a little bit of water, and they were about to cross it, but right before they do, they stop, because coming from underneath the bridge is a hand in a blue glove that's reaching up and grabbing onto the bridge to, like, pull itself up.
No.
Yeah. So they're kind of creeped out, and they crouch down and kind of hide and watch as this figure emerges from under the bridge through the water. They're watching, and they describe a man coming out from under. He's moving kind of weird, like he's as if he's not accustomed to walking or moving, like he has a kind of uncanny way of moving his body.
Ew.
Yeah, and we've talked about stuff that doesn't move natural.
Yeah, I don't
That's
like
a common
it.
theme with some entities.
That part always gets to me. I don't, even in movies, I don't like when something doesn't walk right.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
They also described that the man was carrying some kind of book in his hand, but he dropped it in the water. He tries to pick it up, but he had a hard time picking it up, again, because he didn't seem to know how to move his body correctly.
He's not people.
No. Well, probably not. I don't know.
I don't think so.
So the children describe this man as having very odd clothing and just like a very odd appearance in general. According to them, he was about 7 feet tall. He had a very round, larger than average head, but with no neck. His head just kind of sat atop of his shoulders.
Oh, strange.
Mm-hmm. And on top of his big round head was a pointed, dirty, yellow hat, like a cone kind of hat.
He came out of the water with his hat on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The very top of that pointed hat was like a shiny black ball or knob. He also wore a tattered green tunic with a red collar, and this red collar was kind of the only thing that separated his head from his upper chest and shoulders. Then extending from his wrists and ankles were wooden slants.
Like, he doesn't have legs? I'm confused.
No, like kind of like sticking out from the pant and sleeve, these little bits of wood. I'll send you a picture in a second so you can see him.
Weird.
Yeah. It's brought up again, these little wooden slants. They also said that he had stark white skin that had a paper-like texture to it. And then this is where things get kind of like creepy.
Oh, okay.
Well,
this is
creepier.
This is where we get creepy. Okay.
Yeah. So they noticed that he has a really odd-looking face, very uncanny, almost like he was wearing a clown mask.
This is where we get the clown from.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So he had what seems to be a clown mask with 2 blue triangles for eyes, a small oval-shaped mouth with thin yellow lips, and then he had a brown rectangle for a nose. Then on either side of his face, instead of ears, they saw 2 wooden sticks that just stuck straight out that they described as wooden antennas.
This is so bizarre.
Yeah, it gets weirder.
Oh.
And then, kind of poking out from under his dirty yellow pointed hat over his face was very sparse, reddish-brown, frizzy hair, like really messy, thin bangs.
Mm.
He also was barefoot, which walking barefoot in a swamp I don't recommend.
Mm-mm.
But, like I mentioned, he was wearing blue gloves on his hands. But what's really weird is he only had 3 fingers on each hand and 3 toes on each foot.
This alien is not doing a very good job with disguising himself as people. He did not do his homework. I think he is probably at the bottom of his class down there.
That's why he wears the dunce hat?
Probably. That makes sense.
Okay, and I just sent you a picture of the first published image of what he was supposed to look like.
Okay. Oh. Where's the wooden planks, though? Oh, I see them. And he has a microphone?
Yep, we'll get to that.
This is the oddest thing. We're going to have to put this over on our Reddit so that everybody can see what I'm looking at. Okay. It's clownish, but it's like a space clown is what I'm getting. Oh, you're sending me another?
Yeah, it's very space clown. It kind of has this like vintage robot energy as well.
It does.
It kind of reminds me of the Flatwoods Monster case.
I'm not getting that vibe. I think the clown makeup is throwing... Well, it's not makeup. It's what he look like.
It's like a mask.
Yeah.
Because the face doesn't move, according to the children. So it would probably be a mask in that case.
All right, continue as I look at these images. This is wild.
Yeah. Okay, so the children are obviously in shock. They are creeped out. They do not know what it is that they're seeing, if it's even real.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially as being small children.
I know. No, but this is the early 70s, and children, they lived in a very different world then.
But still, they just saw this come out of the ocean. The swamp.
In like this is like a marsh. Yeah, and from under a bridge, too.
Terrified. I'm surprised they're not, like, running off.
Oh, they do try to at one point.
Oh, okay. I'll let you continue.
They're watching, and this odd man, I believe he gets out of the water and walks into the trees and disappears. At this point, the siren sound comes back, except this time it's really loud, like way louder than before, so loud that it hurts the kids' ears. They're kind of freaked out. They don't know what's going on. They're going back and forth on like, should we go? Like the little boy, Harry, he was like, we need to get out of here. And the little girl, Faye, was like, no, like I want to see like who this is.
I'm with Harry on this one.
Yeah, I would have fled.
Yeah.
But then Harry starts to make a run for it, and Faye runs after him. But as this is happening, the siren sound stops. And when that stops, they both stop in their tracks. They turn around, and behind them, not like right behind them, but like a few yards away, is this man, this creepy clown figure, just standing, staring at them.
Oh no, he sees them.
Yes, so they're like all just kind of like having this stare off. And while this is happening, remember I said where the airport kind of backed up to this area with the fence and those construction workers were working on the fence? They're like nearby. They are not looking over. They do not seem to hear the siren, the really loud one now. They do not seem to see the clown person. They do not even acknowledge that the kids are there.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. But Faye described that in this moment, she heard this like metallic voice within her head tell her to remain calm. So she did. But
no. No.
They're looking at this figure that's looking at them, and all of a sudden he has a microphone in his hand, and it has a white wire coming out of it, and it connects into his chest.
He's just, okay, all right. I'll continue.
So he puts the microphone up to his face, and he starts talking to them. He says, quote, "Hello, are you still there?" The children said that even though he was talking into a microphone, and even though he was kind of like a little ways away from them, it sounded as if he was clearly talking like right in their ear. When he said this, they said that they both felt this feeling that they could trust him, and they had this sense of calmness come over them.
I'm not liking any of this.
Yeah. So from there, all of a sudden now he has a notepad and a pen in his hand, but he's kind of struggling to hold it. He starts writing something down on the notepad, but when he's doing so, like, he can't really do it because, like, he's not good at moving his body. He's trying to manage holding a pen and paper and write at the same time.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot going on. He's got a microphone. Yeah. He's got wood coming out of his sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He finishes writing, and he turns the notepad to the children so that they can see it. And on it, it reads, quote, "Hello, I am all colors Sam." What's really weird, though, is the children said that the writing on the notepad, the words were not set up in the proper order to form a sentence. They were, like, randomly placed all over the page. He pointed to each word on the page for the children to read so that when they read it in order, it formed, "Hello, I am all colors Sam."
He's trying his best over here.
Yeah, so I guess he can't read his writing.
Or he can't formulate a sentence since he's struggling so hard to write. Yeah,
he can only put the words on the paper, but can't write in human language. From there, he asked the children to follow him to his home in the nearby woods.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
The children agree.
Oh my, who's raising these children? Just go with the weird clown man?
Mr. Y.
Mr. Y was also not too worried about a UFO following him, so now it's making sense.
And then he didn't tell anyone about the sea monster eyes in the water.
Yeah, so this makes sense. This is definitely their dad. At least one of them.
Yeah, Faye's dad. But the children agree and they go with him. They said that they said yes to go with because they felt really safe around him all of a sudden. But he leads them through the marsh to his home, which they describe as a small metallic 2-story hut. They had to like crawl inside of it through this like crawl space thing to get in. But once they were in, they described it as having blue and green wallpaper all over the walls with little dials everywhere. There were a few pieces of wooden, like simple wooden furniture and some type of electric heater. And that's what the downstairs was like. But the second level was all metallic, like the outside, and kind of weird and sterile and empty.
Oh no. This sounds like a horror movie.
I know. So while they're inside, All Color Sam removes his pointy hat to reveal to the children that he's essentially bald. I don't know why he decided to show them that he was bald. And it's weird because in the research, I kept seeing it was like the children first described his hair as being red, like a reddish brown. But
Mm-hmm.
once he took the hat off, they could see that it was actually brown. So it seemed almost as if he could change his hair color slightly.
Maybe it was the lighting.
That's what I thought, but I felt like I would mention it because that's what kept coming up in the research.
Yeah. Maybe the wallpaper was reflecting and making it look brown.
Maybe. But, well, odd wallpaper.
Yeah.
But also, after he took his hat off, they could see that he did have ears, but his ears were like really, really round. Like round in a way that a person's would not be round.
Mm. Well, nothing about him is very people-y.
No.
No.
So the children are obviously very confused. They have no idea what's going on, even though they're now in his hut. They're still very curious about All Color Sam, so they ask him a bunch of questions. They asked about his clothes and why they were all tattered up, and he explained that it was the only set of clothing he owned. He also explained that those little wooden slants on his wrist and ankles were helping keep his clothes up.
Hmm?
So maybe he didn't actually have a body. I don't know. Like, I'm just theorizing that. Like, maybe the inside was all like like a wooden frame
Oh, maybe it was all weird under there.
and being operated by like an orb, maybe.
Oh.
I don't know. I didn't see anything about that in the research. I just threw that out there myself.
Yeah. It's probably weird underneath his clothes.
He also told them that he had another home on the mainland, but he didn't tell them the location because he was afraid of people coming and finding him. He has to kind of hide out from humans because he fears them, and he's afraid that they would attack him and they would just end up killing him because he would not fight back because he does not believe in fighting.
So he's peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that. Maybe the kids aren't in too much danger.
Yeah, he seems nice. I mean, it's all creepy.
He seems like a nice guy, though. I mean, he's a little weird, but once you get to know him, he's
In
fine.
other stories, if a person dressed as a clown in a swamp invited kids to a hut, I would be like, oh, hell no.
I'm like that in this one.
I mean, we'll keep getting into it, of course, but he remains normal and nice.
That's where they get you. That's the trickery, is they lure you in with the niceness and then eat you.
Well, he never eats them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
But he does explain that there are others like him. He does end up drawing a picture of what the other ones looked like.
I don't like that.
The children then asked if he was a man. He said no. They then asked if he was a ghost. And he said, quote, well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way.
Oh.
So that's a very confusing answer, like a politician answer.
Mm-hmm.
He also claimed that he had no name, even though he introduced himself as All Colors Sam.
That's weird. I wonder if that meant something else. And the kids interpreted it as a name.
Maybe. The children then asked about food. They asked if he ate food because they noticed he didn't have a normal face. He didn't have a normal mouth. There was no food in the house, really. He said that he eats berries, and he lives only off of these berries that he collects in the woods. He then demonstrates for the children how he eats these berries.
So he just like suck them through his mouth, like.
No.
Oh, that's what I'm imagining.
Nope. He places the berry in his ear,
Oh.
shakes his head, causing the berry to go inside of his ear and disappear. Then the berry reappears as it passes behind one of his triangular eyes. From there, he shakes his head again and reveals that the berry is actually in his small oval-shaped mouth. Tilts his head back and swallows the berry.
I have no words for this.
That's not how you eat berries.
Yeah, I know that, of course, but
So the children, I don't know what they thought of the berry ordeal and how he ate that. But they ended up staying and chatting for another like 30 minutes or
Oh,
so.
no. The berries definitely would have done it for me.
I know, but
No.
they thought he was so cool. So they just like chatted with him. Then they ended up being like, "Okay, well it's time for us to go." And he was like, "Okay, thanks for coming. Bye." And they left, and that
That,
was it.
what?
They said that once they left his hut, were afraid again. Like that feeling of calmness was gone, and they started making a run for it. But then once they made it back to where everyone else was, they felt calm again. Then they were like really excited. They were like so excited that they told the first adult that they saw. It was just some stranger that they ran into.
Oh, I would
And
not have wanted to be that stranger.
well, the stranger was like, "Oh, okay, cute, run along."
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
And so from there, the children kept quiet for about like a week or so. They didn't share this information with anyone.
So they just told
That
a random stranger and then they were like, okay.
secret, yeah.
Hmm.
But then from there, Faye then brings it up to her father, Mr. Y, and he assumed, like, he was also like, okay, whatever. Because he assumed that she was making it up, playing around, it didn't really happen. But she kept talking about it, and her story never changed. It was always exactly the same. So he starts to think that's kind of odd. Then he's putting two and two together because she's talking about that siren noise, and he's like, oh my God. He's like, oh my gosh. That's the siren noise I heard at the beach. So he puts two and two together. He's starting to think it's kind of odd. And he goes back to the area that supposedly they ran into this clown creature. There's no evidence of the hut, no evidence of a clown or anything like that. But he is starting to kind of, think maybe there's something to it. He then talks to the little boy, Harry, and Harry had the exact same story that Faye told.
Mm.
So Mr. Y is like, okay,
It's lining up.
yes. So that's when he decides to come forward with his own experience, and he reaches out to a UFO research group to report his experience and his daughter's experience. Because he believed that it wasn't just connected, but that it was some kind of alien entity that was keeping tabs on him and his family.
Yeah, I think so too.
His accounts were first publicly reported in 1978 in Bufora Journal. Bufora is the British UFO Research Association. That was the first and only time that Mr. Y reported anything to Bufora. Again, he remained anonymous, which I find can add a sense of credibility to things like this, of course, because he's not after fame
Yeah.
and fortune.
I always think that too.
I mean, I don't know why he reported it to a UFO magazine or organization that had a magazine, other than because he had his own UFO experience. But Bufora believed that, I think they thought that it was something extraterrestrial, but they did hint at it maybe being a ghost.
I don't know about that.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't give me ghost vibe.
No, not at all.
But with that, we can get into some theories.
Oh, I am very curious on what kind of theories you would have for this.
So the first one, of course, is aliens.
Yes.
And aliens are keeping tabs on Mr. Y and his family for whatever reason, which is something we've seen in a lot of other UFO cases.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, the Isle of Wight does have a collection of UFO accounts, some of them being colorful orbs, and even one of a silent hovering craft. So that kind of adds up with the story.
Yeah.
Part of it, anyway. Then kind of snowballing off of the alien theory, a lot of people believe that All Color Sam was actually part of the Men in Black.
Oh,
And
I don't know about that.
the theory is that the Men in Black are not human government officials. It's actually extraterrestrials who disguise themselves as humans that are acting as government officials to try to get intel on what we know about them.
Yeah,
And
we discussed that before, and that
yes, on the Sudbrink phone calls.
I do find that plausible. But in this case, the descriptions we have of the Men in Black seem like these aliens have it down.
Yeah, they're looking like humans.
Yeah.
Even if they have their like little uncanny things, kind of like a skinwalker, like they don't quite fit the part totally
Like,
right.
you
Like they
can
don't.
slightly tell, like, something's off. But
Yeah, like they're not blinking. Meanwhile,
this
he's eating
guy,
berry in his ear.
you can really tell, like, this isn't right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know about that theory.
maybe he was kind of like first time, and he's like, "Hey guys, I got an idea for our Men in Black thing. I'm gonna be a clown."
No, I don't know about that. Nobody's intimidated by that. This is so
Well,
weird. I don't think it's
well,
the Men in Black.
some people believe that for the Men in Black theory, that it chose the clown garb to be more appealing to the children, so
But,
that they were more likely to talk to it.
mm,
Because at this time, kids still enjoyed clowns in the early
yeah.
70s, whereas now they don't.
I don't know because he didn't know they were going to be there. How did he know? Oh, if they were tracking them.
Yeah.
Perhaps he knew they were going to be there. Maybe the siren was made to draw them in
Oh, maybe.
specifically.
But why the siren wasn't really designed to draw Mr. Wyatt when he was stuck in that random high tide at the beach. So
Mm,
maybe because it was between the sirens that Mr. Y saw the yellow glowing eyes in the water,
mm-hmm.
or what he described as eyes. And it was between the sirens that the children encountered All Color Sam. And maybe the siren acts as like part of the gateway to an alternate dimension. And that's why the people, like the adults and those workers, didn't hear the siren. They didn't see the clown because the children were in an alternate reality.
I mean, that could make sense. Or maybe it was kind of like to hypnotize them.
Oh, yeah. Like, what,
Hmm.
hypnotize the kids or the others?
The kids, or both. Because both the kids were calm and then the people around them weren't noticing that this was going down.
Yeah.
It could have been used for hypnosis.
Yeah. Or maybe when you're entering that dimension, that's like just like right there next to ours. Maybe that's the sound when something's slipping between.
Mm-hmm. Could be. I don't know. I feel like the hypnosis thing makes sense, though.
Yeah. So to kind of snowball off of that one, people theorize that it's not extraterrestrial in nature, but ultra terrestrial. So some kind of mystical being from this realm, from our Earth. So like a fairy.
Doesn't seem too Fey-like to me. I
I
don't
don't know. Well, the
know.
kids were exploring, like they could have fallen into a fate, like you could get into a fate trap in the middle of a marsh, like you could on the beach.
Mm,
But I don't know, because like I feel like the fairies would bring you to their home, but I don't think they would live in a hut, like a metallic hut.
mm-mm.
And then I'm also, the one thing with that is I'm also like, why is the fairy showing up as an odd clown?
Mm-hmm. This to me seems like something that's just slipped into our dimension, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't
Now,
know.
some people believe that this did happen, but it was not paranormal in nature. They believe that All Color Sam is also not connected to Mr. Y, and that his alien or weird encounters are just a coincidence, and that All Color Sam is actually just a real person, a tangible human, in a very odd clown costume. Some people even suggest that he was perhaps living in this hut in the woods and he was maybe mentally ill, kind of like on the fringes of society. And that's why he dressed the way he did and acted the way he did. And maybe that's why he connected with children. Or that he could have also been a carnival worker who was coming through town and this little hut was his trailer.
That does not explain the berries.
No, that does not. Well, okay, some people did theorize that he had a trick, like a carnival trick with the berry, and like he had a way to make it move. I mean, and they're 7 years old, so maybe he knew a magic trick that went over their heads and it involved a mask.
He's got 3 fingers and 3 toes.
Yeah, carnival worker. But getting into the theory of him being a human in a clown costume gets darker, because then it's like, okay, why is he luring children to a hut in the woods?
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes a whole nother type of case, which is much scarier and worse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But he would let him go?
Yeah, and he let him go, and the children never reported anything happening to
Mm-hmm.
them. they said that they just talked, watched him eat a berry, and left. I don't know.
I don't believe the carnival worker one. The description of him is just way too odd to seem. I feel like the
Yeah.
kids would have been like, it's a costume.
Well, that will take me to the next theory.
Okay.
That it was actually a hoax. Not made up by the children, but made up by the town because I guess maybe tourism was dying at the time. Because the theory is that they wanted this hoax to bring in tourism. And I will say they do have a statue in Sandown of the clown.
I mean, that's plausible, but the story, wow, they really went out there with it.
I know. And also, what I will say, they did a lot of work for a hoax for tourism, just to assume that people were going to find this, because not a lot of people are reading Bufora Journal.
That is true.
So, to me, it would have needed to have gone, like, public, like, news outlet. Like,
exactly.
Because, like, Roswell is a major tourist destination because of the supposed alien crash.
Yeah.
Or weather balloon.
The weather balloon.
But, like, that was all over mainstream media, you know? The only time it's ever been reported was in the Bufora Journal. And it was reported in 1973, but published in 78.
That's a big gap if they're really wanting to pull in tourism,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, they would have done it in, like, the local paper, I feel, more.
Yeah, not Bufora.
Yeah.
So there's one more theory, and this is a shared psychosis joint hysteria.
Oh,
and that the two kids.
Here we go with this again.
We talked about mass hysteria
Yeah.
and the mad gasser.
We did.
I mean, this wouldn't be considered mass hysteria, just joint.
Yeah.
Maybe the kids knew of their father's encounters, and maybe they saw something, and then their minds kind of went wild and gave them the shared psychosis. But then
it seems like a stretch for the amount of details and what's going on.
It's very, I don't know, that it's rare, very rare. So where do you land on that one?
I don't think it was psychosis. I don't see anything that's making them go into psychosis either. I mean, you get scared about things, but it doesn't necessarily make you going to have a joint psychosis to this level. This is pretty intense and detailed, and it wasn't like they had just seen the clown and that was it. They went on a little trip with him and went into a hut and saw him eat a berry. That's a long shared psychosis.
With very specific details of the inside.
Yeah.
And of clothing, like very, very weird clothing also.
I don't think it was psychosis.
I don't either. I don't know what I think.
I'm thinking some weird interdimensional creature that stumbled upon our planet that came out of the ocean, perhaps. I don't know. This one is really weird. And I feel like to try to even describe what we would think it is, I feel like that's really weird as well. Like, what is this? I mean, part of me really wants to go alien, trying to fit in.
Well, and especially if Mr. Y saw the UFO, but then it gets kind of weird of the glowing light in the water. But then it's okay, have aliens been in the water for a long time?
I think so.
Okay, but then why are the aliens coming as a clown?
I don't know. Maybe they thought it would be a good disguise since they already look funny and they knew they weren't really fitting in. They're like, what do people find funny? Clowns.
Maybe, what if the clown was a skinwalker? Because
those kids would be dead. What are you talking about? A skinwalker doesn't invite you in and show you how he eats berries in his hut.
Okay. Government experiment. No, because government experiment wouldn't have ended well for the kids.
No, that would
I don't know. But do you see some of the parallels to the Sudbrink phone call?
I do, especially since he had difficulties with language.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
That's the one thing that caught my attention was the microphone.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking because the father saw something extraterrestrial and then his daughter had a weird experience, that the theories kind of connect to aliens and Men in Black. That's where I was connecting it. I didn't even think of that part.
That's the one part I did.
I hope it's something paranormal and not some creepy, awful guy.
I don't think it would. I don't know. It would be a really good costume. And did they ever find the hut, or did that just
No.
disappear?
It was just gone, which Bufora, they made a comment about that, and they were like, it's very common for experiences like this to have no trace because these kinds of things are interdimensional and they don't, like when they go, they don't stay in our reality, so nothing gets left behind.
I'm really going interdimensional here. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think it's a ghost.
No, not at all.
If anything, I would be team alien connection going into Men in Black, and this was just a really bad Men in Black disguise.
I'm not doing the Men in Black on this one. Sorry. I just feel like the Men in Black just seem so proper, even though they're off a little. There's something a little bit more scary and authoritative about them.
But maybe that was like, oh, we can't show up in creepy suits to talk to a kid because they're going to think we're like some scary adult. So we'll come as a clown.
I mean, could be, but they really went out there with that clown design.
Yeah,
you know, like it's over the top.
And then it's also like, why was the clown in the water under a bridge?
Yeah.
Which kind of then makes me think just some type of interdimensional being, which I guess could kind of connect to ultra-terrestrial, like the fairy idea.
Yeah. It's just a different kind of swamp monster, maybe. I don't know. It's
always a good one when we have to talk for a while about theories.
Baffling. This is going to be another one that I'm going to be thinking about after hours. Like,
Well, everyone, please let us know what you think
All
Color Sam was.
I'm curious to read the comments on this. Well,
that's all I have on Sam the Sandown Clown.
That was by far, I think, one of our most interesting, different cases. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know where this was going to go. It literally kept me on my toes the entire time. It was like a fever dream or something. It was like, what is going on? It was
a fever dream.
It was. Maybe that's what it was.
A joint fever dream.
It was just a fever dream. We solved it. We're always solving it at the end. You heard it here first. Nessie's dead. It was a fever dream.
You know what it like really reminds me of? It.
It does.
Like a clown, an alien disguised as a clown, kind of coming out of something watery. Because doesn't it? I've actually never seen it. But doesn't he come out of he comes out of something like sewer?
Yeah, he lives over there in the water. I wonder if this is where he got the idea for the book, It.
I'm calling him. I'm calling Stephen King tonight.
Because it is alien clown, water. There's kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think
is he kind of uncanny? Well,
he's an
the
alien
new one
clown.
is uncanny, but the original in the movie, I also haven't read the book. I'm just not in the world with it.
I could really see how that's where he got the idea. Because the book did come out in 1986, so we're looking at not less than 10 years later?
86?
Yeah, 1986. And that was published in 1978?
Yeah.
Maybe he stumbled across that and decided...
Is he British?
No, but still.
No. You know, if I was a horror author, I would be constantly looking into actual urban legends and UFO reports to get ideas for things. I mean, Ryan Murphy does that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Stephen King has always done the same thing.
Maybe we should look into that.
That'll be cool.
That's very interesting. It does kind of go side by side with the whole It movie. Huh.
It does.
It.
And if you've stayed this long into the episode, I would assume that you are a fan. So we do have something very special, unique episode coming up for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to say too much more, but we do have something very unique coming.
We do. I'm excited for it.
Me too. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that,
we will say goodnight.
And pleasant nightmares.
Bye.
Bye.